Hey folks, this is Sean McCormick, and there was a bit of sun after the hangout with Levi and Rob at Photofocus today, so I decided that I would go out and try and catch some of the sun at the sunset. It did cloud over when I was out, but I was still able to get kind of bits and pieces of a shot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to edit this shot and just to give you a look at roughly what I'm going to do. Now, there is some dirt on my sensor that I haven't been able to get off with a wet clean, the Fuji X-T10, a camera I love. Even though Lightroom is not, well, it may not be the best processor, lots of people prefer other ones, but I'm happy enough with it for using it with Lightroom. But straight out of camera, it needs a lot of work. So this is what I have straight out of the camera. As you can see, if I turn on the clipping, we can see that we've got this area is lost shadows and there's highlights lost here. So I'm not sure how fully recoverable they are. We're going to find out in a minute. So what I'm going to start with is I'm going to start by pressing Q, or you can come up here and click spot removal. And then I'm going to press the A key, which turns on this visualize spots. This is with the toolbar visible. Press T if you don't have the toolbar visible. So you can see straight away there's one here that's really obvious. And I'm going to pull back a little bit and see if there's other ones. No, that seems to be the worst one visible there. There may be other ones, but they're being hidden by details in the shot, and so they're not as visible to the eye. Okay, just was that one there? That's one definitely there. Okay, and that may be one there, but I think it's actually a feature. It's not circular enough really to be a spot, but sometimes those things can actually be distracting in the image anyway. So again, press Q to get rid of that. So that's that done. The next thing is that I'm going to go to the crop tool. I'm going to press auto and see what it gives me for the straighten. That doesn't look too bad, so I'm going to turn on an overlay, and the shortcut for the overlay is Command Option O or Control Alt O. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to zoom in here. By holding the Command or Control key, you can move this around. Okay, and that actually looks like it's quite close. I'm just looking along the line to make sure I can't see the C above the line. It's gone slightly below the line there, but it's very, very close. More than visually acceptable there. Okay, so that's the straightening done. So the next thing I'm going to look at is I'm going to fix the balance of the sky and the ground. I'm going to use that using the graduate filter. So that's got nothing on it at the moment, and if it didn't, I would double click the word effect to reset it. So I'm going to pull that down just over the horizon. I'm going to pull down the exposure a little bit because I didn't bring my filters with me. I actually want to buy a new set of graduated filters for the Fuji, but I haven't got it, so I want more contrast and I want to pull down the highlights. Okay, so we can see here that we have managed to pull back the clipping from there. It's still very, very bright there, so I don't think the stuff we're going to do is not going to get rid of that completely, I don't think. It's a little bit more clarity and a little bit more saturation in there. So that's brought out some of the colour that was there. Now there was colour in the sky, but what I should really do before I go any further is actually change down the camera calibration tab. I actually want to go and change from the Adobe Standard profile to the Velvia Vivid profile. Right, which should give me a boost in contrast and colour, so that's giving me way more in there. And so now I might actually have too much saturation in that graduated filter, so I click it again, and the pin needs to be highlighted again, so I click on it, and I'm actually going to pull back that saturation because I may pull up the overall saturation in the image, which will affect that as well. Just bring that a little bit. Now I'm seeing here it's a bit too strong on the rock, so I'm actually going to make that a little bit more graduated, just so that it's not strong on the rocks. Okay, now your eye does always go to the brightest part of the image, so it's always going to go to that section there, so I may crop, because I don't think I'm going to get rid of that fully. Even though we've brought it back from clipping, it's going to be a little bit distracting. So the next thing I would normally do with a landscape image is I would pull the highlights completely, and I would open up the shadows, which is definitely gone for more of a balance. Now I can definitely see these areas here are almost white, even though they're not clipped. They're still definitely way too bright that we can't do much with them. So the next thing I'm going to do is, generally when you open up the whites, or when you open up the shadows, you can lose some of the blacks, but that's not too bad there. We still have black, so that's after coming down slightly. I don't want that. So what I'm going to do next is, this rock is cool, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my brush tool, and I'm actually going to darken it, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to just bring it down slightly here, and I'll set what I want it to be afterwards. Now I do have the auto mask function on, which I don't always use, so hopefully it'll keep it within these rocks here. I think there's a little bit of fogging going on with that rock as well, but I think I'm actually going to be doing a little bit of cropping there now. So I'm just going to darken around these rocks here. Okay, so now I'm going to bring it back a little bit darker than that. And what that'll do is that'll actually draw attention to the rock there even more. What I could do with that rock is I could go out and jump, and I could get a radial filter around it, and I need to invert the mask here now, so that way it's operating outside, and we can create a little highlight on the light. So that's going to highlight the rock a little bit more if we want. The feather will control the bleed into the other rocks a little bit as well. So now just pressing Y to do a comparison. So oh, that's way back. That's from the wrong place. That was from what I was working on earlier. So let me just jump back and change that to reset settings and copy history step to before. And so that's our before and after so far. So press Y. The other thing you can do is you can press the backslash key, and that will give you a before and an after as well. So it's just a little bit too much into that rock, so I might even just change the angle on it slightly. Okay, so Shift M to get rid of that. So the next thing I can do is I'm going to jump back to the brush. I'm going to press New for a new one, and I'm going to bring this down as well, and I'm going to do darken around the sea here, so that way the actual whiteness of the waves becomes a little bit exaggerated as well. Now I do want these to be separate to the rocks, so in case I decide to change them separately. Okay, so now I'm going to jump back to my crop, and I'm going to press O to cycle through until I get a rule of thirds. So I'm actually going to bring these in a little bit. So I'm just going to cheat slightly and crop some of that sky out because it's very bright. I don't think I'm going to be able to get rid of it. Okay, so there you go. That's not bad. So there are lots of other places you could decide, for example, that you wanted to go in with the brush tool. Click New so we're not affecting that, and you could actually brush in to darken out the sky even further if you wanted. Auto mask is on, so it's going to do funny things at the top of the sky there. So I could darken it, but you might decide that's too much and bring back the exposure instead and pull down highlights. And you might decide, well, you know, that's too dark compared to the foreground, so bring it back. The other thing you could do as well is click New again, because we're not fully white here in these areas here. As you can see, they're at 75, 76, so there's loads and loads left in there. So I could click New. What I could do is I could actually increase the highlights here. Double click Exposure to get rid of that. Not contrast, highlights. So bring up the highlights. And what you could do is, if you brush along here, you could make them even whiter as well, just to draw your attention to there as well. So again, using that backslash key, you can see the difference there. Now what I can see is there's a little bit of brightness here on the top of the rock that I'm not happy with. So I'm going to go back to that tool, or a bit of darkness rather. I think it needs to go out a little bit. Maybe make it slightly longer. There we go. I think that's it now. So Shift M to turn it off again. And yeah. So now I'm just going to press the F key to go full screen. And so that's the image in full screen. Now in full screen it doesn't apply sharpening quite the way I would like sometimes. And the other thing that I should point out is because it's a Fuji file, that's not actually fully, that's not actually showing things properly there. So because it's a Fuji file, Pete Bridgewood recommends that you go for 100% detail, and it will need a little bit more sharpening, so I'm going to sharpen it up a little bit as well. Okay, so I'm going to put a little bit of masking on so it's not doing it everywhere. if I hold down the Alt or Option key, it'll show me where the edges are, so I'm able to pull it back so it's not affecting the sky edges as much, and that should sharpen the image. Hopefully it will become a little bit sharper on screen as well. Yeah, so there we go. And when I press F, it looks reasonable. Again, this is the same issue sometimes as you get with Photoshop, where intermediate values of it don't always look as sharp. So there we go. So that's basically a quick look at processing a landscape image, specifically a Fuji image. This is just something from this evening. Like I say, the light had basically just started to go. It really needed to be there longer and the light not to go to get the better shots with longer exposures than I'm getting there, even though like there's a reasonable amount of motion in the actual waves from the shutter speed I had, which was half a second. Half a second is enough to show motion in waves, so but it's probably the it's the minimum amount that you would need. You really want to be at 2 or 3 seconds to get a good flow of water. So just going to leave you with the final process. So hopefully you enjoyed that. I've loads of information about Lightroom and using Lightroom in my book, which is the indispensable guide to Lightroom CC. And I'm just going to put up, I have a bit.ly link for it just to make it easier to find and go through the process of searching through Rocky Nook to get it. So it's about 500 pages and it goes into a lot of detail on how Lightroom works, as well as practical examples and in-depth stuff like even repairing catalogs and things like that. So this has been Sean McCormick, and I hope you've enjoyed this.